Well, it's been a busy few weeks for Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, including the Queen's funeral, which took place in the UK last month, as well as concerns over continued unrest in Europe and now the Pacific. Well, closer to home, a report on the government's $30 million Healthy Homes initiative shows more than 142,000 New Zealanders have been helped into warm, dry homes. We caught up with the Prime Minister earlier and asked about her experience at the Queen's funeral.
It was really moving. We had an opportunity to meet up with those who were representing New Zealand at the funeral, knowing that given there would be hundreds of people there, we may not necessarily see each other on the day. But as I walked in to Westminster Abbey and walking down the long walkway to the very end of the Abbey, I actually did see those phases scattered amongst the audience, and I saw the odd korowai as well. That's what caught my eye first, and just that recognition of one another, just with a glance, knowing we were there to represent New Zealanders. It was a really moving experience.
North Korea is believed to have launched a ballistic missile across Japan. Japan's Prime Minister warning his people to take cover. It's been 5 years since North Korea has done something like this. What do you know about what's going on in that part of the world?
We have seen an increase in tests that have been conducted in recent times, and a significant number even in the past, a reasonable number in the past few days. But this was a test that triggered a warning in Japan, and so that's considered obviously to be in greater proximity in that regard and a greater threat. The international community has been deeply concerned by activity by North Korea for some time. There are United Nations Security Council resolutions on the issue and sanctions that apply to North Korea. New Zealand has played a role in supporting the sanctions by undertaking maritime surveillance to ensure that those goods and services that should not be traded are not being, and monitoring those sanctions. So we are playing our role, and we of course condemn the tests that we've seen recently. It just causes such a sense of insecurity for the region, not least the people of Japan.
Okay, now back here, the report on the Healthy Homes Initiative. We've been told our housing market over the last couple of years is a human rights crisis. What do you say to families who have been caught up still living out of motels? What does their future look like?
And here, I'd say there's two things. We do need to make sure that we have enough houses in New Zealand, but we also need to make sure that they're healthy homes. And so the Healthy Homes Initiative, which we've released this report on, talks about the investment we've made to make sure that houses are warm and dry, that they have heating sources, curtains, insulation. And as a result of this program, we've seen a 20% reduction in hospitalisations for those families. So it just shows that when we make sure that we have decent homes, warm, dry homes, that it benefits everyone, and it reduces the impact on our health system as well. So that's a reason to keep going. Neil, for those who are in hotels, these are only intended to be temporary measures. Too many are there for too long. We have seen a reduction in some areas on the waiting list, and a reduction in motel use. We've just got to make sure that we have that effect everywhere.
Now, things can be difficult, challenging for you at the best of times because you have to be across every single thing that happens in the country. Our country's tourism recovery is now set to kick off in the next few months, hopefully back to where it was, if not better. And we're expecting strong inbound numbers from countries which have visa waiver agreements with Aotearoa, including North America, the UK and Europe. What's the government doing to help support this sector in light of the challenges they've had to face over the past couple of years?
Yeah, good question. And there's two issues that I hear from the tourism sector. Yes, of course, they want to make sure that people are coming back. And we've seen that. In July, we had 100,000 tourists coming into the country. 90% plus return to numbers in Queenstown for the ski season there. And we're expecting summer, the numbers to only continue to grow. But one of the challenges that the sector faces is having enough workers. Yep. And we're not alone in that. It's actually one of the complaints I'm hearing around the world is that there are skill shortages everywhere. We know that our working holiday visa makes a difference, but we've also worked with the sector to make it as easy as possible for workers in areas where they need workers to come in. But whilst also making sure that we're doing what we can to employ locally and keeping wage rates at a decent level. And the second thing is that we have been working with the industry to make sure that we come back sustainably, that we have an industry that makes sure we're leaving New Zealand better than we found it. There's been a number of projects going on to make sure we're supporting the industry to innovate and to become more sustainable. And that's work that the government has funded and supported.
Now, just to go across this very quickly, there's a petition in Parliament to prevent rongoā Māori being monitored under a new bill. What do you say to the practitioners of rongoā to give them some peace of mind?
Yeah, and here, of course, for a bit of a more in detailed conversation, definitely worth having the Minister on. But I think one of the issues that we're trying to ensure is just that for practitioners in these fields, just that we ensure that there is knowledge, consent and safety on all sides. And that's what many of these kinds of regulatory frameworks are all about, ensuring safety for the practitioner, but also the consumer.
Okay. Now, I know we've got to go, but I can't leave it here without talking about the Black Ferns, who kick off the Rugby World Cup hopes this Saturday at Eden Park against Australia. I know you're a big supporter of national teams, in particular the Black Ferns. How important is this for us and the globe, and what message do you have for the Black Ferns before kick-off?
Oh, it's just hugely important. So here we are as a nation hosting the Rugby World Cup for women, but this is actually about just our love of sport, our ability to make sure that actually our incredible Black Ferns are elevated to where they should be on the world stage. They are elite athletes. And so it's not just about women's sport. And so I'd really encourage everyone, they're aiming for Eden Park this Saturday to have the largest turnout for a women's rugby match. And I believe we can do it. So come down and enjoy the game. The Black Ferns up against Australia. What could be better to kick off the Rugby World Cup?
Beautiful, and I'm going there to make sure I get to see my cousin Rita Ora perform. She's not my cousin. Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern, thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to catching up with you again next week. Ngā mihi kia koe.
Ka kite.